Hello there, YouTubers. This is my Fairbanks Morse 6 horsepower. It starts fairly easy, but I got sick of cranking on it. It's a pain in the butt, particularly if something's not just right. If it's damp or something, it makes it a pain to start. So I wanted to show you today. I put this Delco starter generator on here. I'll tell you a little bit about it. These were on garden tractors from the 60s, the 70s, and other applications too as well. They're not real great at producing power as far as a generator goes, and they're kind of mediocre for use as a starter. They do work. It has to do with the way the windings are inside of it. It's meant to do okay at starting and okay at generating electricity, but it doesn't do real great at either one. It was kind of a compromise, I suppose. I bolted it down to the back of the frame here, and I have the belt going around the flywheel. Now these are 28-inch flywheels, and the pulley on the starter generator is 3-inch, so it's roughly a 9-to-1 ratio. So if I'm running the engine at 400 RPM, it's spinning this generator around 3600 RPM, which is kind of slow. Typically, these were on a tractor, it would have been like a 3-to-1 ratio. And if the engine was spinning at 2000 RPMs, this generator would spin around 6000 RPMs. So I know in this application it's spinning pretty slow, which doesn't help it at all as far as power output, but I'm not really concerned about it charging the batteries as much as I am just using it as a starter. So it's kind of a non-issue for my application here. This is a 1/4 inch by 3-inch or 2.5-inch band iron that I just bolted across the frame rails there. Welded these ears on. This is the same material. I held them together in a vise and drilled through both of them at once to keep the holes in the same spot. Welded them on there. Then I put this 1/2-inch round stock on there. I bent, and it comes up here to this spring that just keeps constant tension on the belt. Now, as far as the wiring goes, I know some of you will probably be interested in that. This is the regulator. This is separate from the starter generator, okay? This is your armature terminal. This is the field terminal. Field terminal goes up here to the regulator and hooks. I believe there's an F stamped on this terminal. There's a B stamped on this terminal, which is for the battery. And then there's an L on this one, which is for your load, which would be lights, electric PTO clutch, cigarette lighter if you happen to have an old wheel horse. Then there is a wire coming off the armature here that goes underneath and hooks to a terminal on the regulator. I don't fully understand how these work. I mean, I know there's points in there, and I've cleaned them and I've looked at the windings and whatnot. Everything appears okay, and when I spin this with an electric motor, I can make it charge, so I know everything's working pretty good there. I do know these regulators have to be grounded, so you want to make sure that your screws are tight, or if you have a separate regulator, you got to make sure it's grounded good back to your battery. This came off an old wheel horse. I put bearings in it. I was able to get them right at Napa. The part number was a 6203Z. That's an interchange part number. I mean, you can use that and they can cross-reference it and look it up, but my local Napa had those bearings right in stock. I put new brushes in it that come out of another starter generator that the armature was blown up in. Looked like somebody had spun it too fast at one time, so I robbed the brushes out of that. They were really good still, and put them in this one. This solenoid here, I use this solenoid to send battery power up to the armature terminal to make it crank. I use the solenoid because I don't like carrying the full amperage through just a switch, so I use a solenoid. This is a Cole Hersey continuous duty solenoid I picked up on eBay for $10. At the time I bought two of them. I have a golf cart with a Kohler motor in it and a starter generator, and it needed a solenoid in it. The one that was in it was bad. So I found these, like I say, on Amazon. They were 10 bucks a piece. I think that included the shipping. But they're good ones. They're continuous duty. And I like these over like a Ford starter solenoid because it has two terminals here to activate the solenoid. And they're insulated from the solenoid. And I like it that way for one reason. I was able to take battery power here and run it to this terminal, so the coil in here's got constant power all the time. Then I'm just going to run one wire from this terminal up the frame rail to my switch up front, and I'll just be able to ground the switch to activate the solenoid. When you push the when I push the switch, it'll ground this terminal, which will activate the solenoid. Otherwise, if you try to run power through your switch, you've got to run two wires up to the front, and when you ground it, you can just get away with running one wire. I don't have the switch yet. I got to pick one up tomorrow after work, and that's why I don't have it hooked up yet. This wire here goes up to the battery terminal on the starter generator regulator, and it just comes down, ties into this terminal, which leads it right back to the battery. You can see my cables down here to my battery. That's the positive, and then this one's just the ground, the negative. That's about all there is to it. I'll get you on the tripod and show you how it works. Okay, here we go. I've got my little temporary push button switch hooked up to the solenoid on the back, and I'm not going to run it for long. I didn't even bother to put water in it. I dumped some gas in the mixer and opened up the valve. You'll see me hold the intake valve open to get it cranking. Once it's spinning about as fast as it's going to, I'll release the intake valve. It should continue to roll past compression and start up. We'll see what happens. Well, there you have it. And actually every time I've tried it, it has started that good, and it'll probably continue to start that good as long as it's here in the garage. I'm sure the first time I take it to an engine show, it'll probably give me trouble, but you guys know about that. Alright, that's it for today. Take care.